When we think of America's founding documents, the Northwest Ordinance doesn't always make the list, but maybe it should. It shows us that the very beginning, education in this country wasn't about knowledge. It was about shaping moral citizens through religion, character, and truth. Let's take a closer look.
When people talk about the Articles of Confederation, they usually focus on everything that didn't work. Because it was a loose and therefore weak alliance of states, the leaders in Congress usually grappled unsuccessfully with the issues facing the fledgling nation from 1781 until the official ratification of the U.S. Constitution in 1788. But despite its flaws, some meaningful accomplishments happened under the Articles. One of the most important was the Northwest Ordinance of 1787.
Though often just a footnote in American history, the Northwest Ordinance of 1787 laid out how vast new lands could become equal members of the Union. It also guaranteed certain rights to residents of those territories, years before the Bill of Rights was ratified.
The Northwest Ordinance made a powerful connection between religion and education. In just 14 sections and fewer than 2,000 words, it had a lasting impact on our nation. It built upon two earlier documents, the Land Ordinances of 1784 and 1785. These laws tackled the practical issues of how to settle new lands and organize them politically. The original ordinance of 1784 had been drafted by none other than Thomas Jefferson. This version provided a clear and concise list of the order of events that had to occur and explained how a territory would be governed in the interim between initial settlement and admission to the Union as a state. The Ordinance of 1785 was an extension of the first one, and its similar text was also ratified by Congress.
Then came the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. While the Constitutional Convention met in Philadelphia, delegates Nathan Dane and Rufus King revised Jefferson's work. They kept the structure but added something significant, a list of individual rights, especially around religion and education.
Section 13 signaled that shift. It reads, "And for extending the fundamental principles of civil and religious liberty, which form the basis whereon these republics, their laws, and constitutions are erected." That one line marked a turn from territory management to protecting individual liberty, something that was on everyone's mind in 1787.
What followed was a list of rights, many of which were enshrined a few years later in the first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution, collectively known to us as the Bill of Rights. Among those listed in Article 3 of the Northwest Ordinance was one groundbreaking sentence, quote, "Religion, morality, and knowledge, being necessary to good government and the happiness of mankind, schools and the means of education shall forever be encouraged," end quote. That one sentence forever altered the way that the American people viewed education.
What had been the responsibility of families or individual hamlets and villages was now the charge of the individual states. The other defining statement was the connection between religion, morality, and knowledge with education. All three, according to the text, were necessary for good government and the happiness of mankind. Therefore, it was in the schools and through education that all three components necessary to good government would be obtained by American citizens. This sentence is more evidence that the founding generation of the United States of America believed that religion and moral issues were and are paramount in governance. It is also clear that their intent was for state governments to forever encourage schools that inculcated religion, morality, and knowledge.
The Northwest Ordinance paved the way for state-funded education and later land-grant universities. 5 states emerged from the Northwest Territory: Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin, each committed to public education and protected religious freedom. For more than a century, the concepts of the Northwest Ordinance continued to shape the way the nation dealt with education. Moral and civic instruction of young people was among the primary responsibilities of the states. Regarding education, no strict wall of separation between church and state was advocated in the Northwest Ordinance. Just the opposite was true. These states relied on religion as one of the 3 pillars, along with morality and knowledge, for good government and happiness of their citizens.
That's a sharp contrast to what many assume today. The founders and the generations who lived through the revolution knew what was at stake and what was required for a good government. They firmly comprehended that this republic required a morally responsible people to defend and preserve the freedoms which so many Americans had fought and died for.
Education rooted in religion, morality, and knowledge, as the Northwest Ordinance encouraged, became one of the hallmarks of the American experiment.